The Song dynasty of China was a ruling dynasty that controlled China proper and southern China from the middle of the 10th century into the last quarter of the 13th century. The Song is considered a high point of classical Chinese innovation in science and technology, an era that featured prominent intellectual figures such as Shen and Su Song and the revolutionary use of gunpowder weapons. However, it was also a period of political and military turmoil, with opposing and often aggressive political factions formed at court, which impeded progress in many ways. The frontier management policies of the Chancellor Wang Anshi exacerbated hostile conditions along the Chinese-Vietnamese border, sparking a border war with the Lai dynasty. Although this conflict was fought to a mutual draw, there was subsequently an enormous military defeat at the hands of invading Jurchens from the north in 1127 during the Jin-Song Wars, forcing the remnants of the Song court to flee south from Kaifeng and establish a new capital at Hangzhou. It was that new naval strength was developed to combat their Jurchen's Jin dynasty formed in the north. Although the Song dynasty was able to defeat further Jurchen invasions, the Mongols led by Genghis Khan, Oghidi Khan, Monkey Khan, and finally Kublai Khan gradually conquered China, until the fall of the final Song emperor in 1279. Founding of the Song. The later Zhou was the last of the 5 dynasties that had controlled northern China after the fall of the Tang dynasty in 907. Zhao Kuang-yin, later known as Emperor Taizu, usurped the throne from the Zhou with the support of military commanders in 960, initiating the Song dynasty. Upon taking the throne, his first goal was the reunification of China after half a century of political division. This included the conquests of Nanping, Wuyu, southern Han, later Shu, and southern Tang in the south, as well as the northern Han and the 16 prefectures in the north, with capable military officers such as Yang Yi, Lu Tingrang, Cao Bin and Hu Yunzan. The early Song military became the dominant force in China. Innovative military tactics, such as defending supply lines across floating pontoon bridges, led to success in battle such as the Song assault against the southern Tang state, while crossing the Yangtze River in 974. Using a massive arrow fire from crossbowmen, Song forces were able to defeat the renowned War Elephant Corps of the Southern Han on January 23, 971, thus forcing the submission of Southern Han and terminating the first and last Elephant Corps that would make up a regular division within a Chinese army. Consolidation in the south was completed in 978 with the conquest of Wuyu. Song military forces then turned north against the northern Han, which fell to Song forces in 979. However, efforts to take the 16 prefectures were unsuccessful and they were incorporated into the Liao state based in Manchuria to the immediate north. Instead, to the far northwest, the Tanguts had been in power over northern Shaanxi since 881, after the earlier Tang court appointed a Tangut chief as a military governor over the region, a seat that became hereditary. Although the Song state was evenly matched against the Liao dynasty, the Song gained significant military victories against the western Xia. After political consolidation through military conquest, Emperor Taizu held a famous banquet inviting many of the high-ranking military officers that had served him in Song's various conquests. As his military officers drank wine and feasted with Taizu, he spoke to them about the potential of a military coup against him like those of 5 Dynasties era. His military officers protested against this notion and insisted that none were as qualified as him to lead the country. The passage of this account in the song She follows as such. The emperor said, "The life of man is short. Happiness is to have the wealth and means to enjoy life, and then to be able to leave the same prosperity to one's descendants. If you, my officers, will renounce your military authority, retire to the provinces, and choose the best lands and the most delightful dwelling places, to pass the rest of your lives in pleasure and peace, would this not be better than to live a life of peril and uncertainty, so that no shadow of suspicion shall remain between prince and ministers? We will ally our families with marriages, and thus, ruler and subject linked in friendship and amity, we will enjoy tranquility." The following day, the army commanders all offered their resignations, reporting maladies, and withdrew to the country districts, where the emperor, giving them splendid gifts, appointed them to high official positions. Emperor Taizu developed an effective centralized bureaucracy staffed with civilian scala officials and regional military governors, and their supporters were replaced by centrally appointed officials. This system of civilian rule led to a greater concentration of power in the central government headed by the emperor than had been possible during the previous dynasties. In the early 11th century, there were some 30,000 men who took the prefectural exams per year, which steadily increased to roughly 80,000 by the end of the century, and to 400,000 exam takers during the 13th century. Although new municipal governments were often established, the same number of prefectures and provinces were in existence as before the Song came to power. Thus, although more people were taking exams, roughly the same number were being accepted into the government as in previous periods, making the civil service exams very competitive amongst aspiring students and scholars. Emperor Taizu also found other ways to consolidate and strengthen his power, including updated map-making so that his central administration could easily discern how to handle affairs in the provinces. In 971, he ordered Lu Juosan to update and rewrite all the Tujing in the world, a daunting task for one individual. Nonetheless, he traveled throughout the provinces to collect illustrative gazetteers and as much data as possible. With the aid of Song Jun, the massive work was completed in 1010, with some 1566 chapters. The later Song Shi historical text stated, Yuan Jie was Director General of Governmental Grain Stores. In pursuance of his schemes for the relief of famines, he issued orders that each power should prepare a map which would show the fields and mountains, the rivers and the roads in fullest detail. The maps of all the power were joined together to make a map of the two, and these in turn were joined with others to make a map of the Xiang and the Shen. If there was any trouble about the collection of taxes, of the distribution of grain, or if the question of chasing robbers and bandits arose, the provincial officials could readily carry out their duties by the aid of the maps. Taizu also displayed a strong interest in science and technology. He employed the Imperial Workshop to support such projects as Zhang Sixun's hydraulic-powered armillary sphere that used liquid mercury instead of water. Emperor Taizu was also quite open-minded in his affairs, especially with those perceived as foreigners. He appointed the Arab Muslim Ma Yez as the chief astronomer of the Song court. For receiving envoys from the Korean kingdom of Goryeo alone, the Song court had roughly 1,500 volumes written about the nuanced rules, regulations, and guidelines for the reception. The Song also sent envoys abroad, such as Wang Yan, who was sent as an official envoy to the Uyghur Turkic city of Gaochang in 981. then under Karakanate control. From the 2nd century onwards, ancient Chinese histories even record that embassies of the Roman Empire and Byzantine Empire arrived in China, as recorded in the history of Song and Wensh and Tongkao. The last known arrival of Byzantine envoys came in 1081, apparently sent by Michael VII Doukas to the court of Emperor Shenzong of Song. However, the history of Yuan records that a Byzantine man served as an astronomer and physician at the court of Kublai Khan during the subsequent Yuan dynasty, and in 1371 the Hongwu emperor of the Ming dynasty sent an alleged Byzantine merchant to inform the Byzantine ruler of the founding of the new dynasty. Relations with Liao and Western Xia. The Great Dichan Treaty of Shanyuan. Relations between the Song and Liao were relatively peaceful in the first 2 decades after Song was founded. The disputed territories of the northern Han and the 16 prefectures notwithstanding, in 974, the two began exchanging embassies on New Year's Day. However, in 979 the Song moved against the northern Han, long under the protection of the Liao dynasty. The Song emperor succeeded in forcing the northern Han to surrender, but when marching on the Liao southern capital in the 16 prefectures, Song forces were defeated at the Battle of Jialang River. This defeat was politically damaging to the prestige of Emperor Taizong of Song, so much so that his top military commanders orchestrated an aborted coup to replace him with his nephew Zhao Dizhao. Relations between the Song and Liao remained tense and hostile. In 986 the Song sent 3 armies against the Liao in an effort to take advantage of an infant emperor and recapture the 16 prefectures, but the Liao successfully repulsed all 3 armies. Following this, diplomatic relations were resumed. Relations between Song and Liao worsened in the 990s. From 993 to 1004, the Liao observed the Song as the latter built a great ditch in northern Hebei province from the Taihang Mountains in the west all the way to the Bohai Sea in the east. This was essentially a series of canals meant to block the advance of Liao cavalry far from the northern borderline. Although the Liao perceived this engineering project as a means for the Song to dispatch offensive forces more efficiently via new waterways, in 999 the Liao began annual attacks on Song positions, though with no breakthrough victories. The Liao were interested in capturing the Guanan region of northern Hebei, both because the Song general Zhou Shizong had taken it from them and because it contained strategic passes. In 1004, Liao forces managed to march deep into Song territory, camping out in Shanyuan, about 100 kilometers north of the Song capital of Kaifeng. However, the forces were greatly overextended and any possible escape route was in danger of being blocked by Song forces. Eventually, the completion of the Great Ditch as an effective defensive blockade which slowed the advance of Liao cavalry forced the Liao to request a truce. Negotiations resulted in the Treaty of Shanyuan, signed in January 1005, which fixed the borders of the Song and Liao as they were before the conflict. The Khitan rulers also wanted to intermarry with the Zhao family line of the Song, an offer that the Song refused in favor of a nominal and figurative imperial kinship. However, the treaty required the Song to make annual tribute payments to the Liao and recognize Liao equality with the Song. The tribute consisted of 283 kilograms of silver along with 200,000 bolts of silk, increasing to 500,000 units by 1042. However, even with the increase in 1042, the Song economy was not damaged by this enforced tribute. The bullion holding of the Liao dynasty did not increase with the tribute either, since the Song exported many goods annually to the Liao, dwarfing the amount of imported goods from Liao. Therefore, much of the silver sent to Liao as tribute was used to pay for Song Chinese goods, and the silver wound up back into the hands of Chinese merchants and the Song government, until the Song dynasty took advantage of a large rebellion within the Liao kingdom in 1125. The Song had to conduct cordial relations with the Liao. Skilled ambassadors were sent on missions to court the Liao and maintain peace, such as the renowned horologist, engineer, and state minister Su Song. The Song also prepared for armed conflict, increasing the overall size of the armed forces to 1 million soldiers by 1022. By that time, however, the military was consuming 3/4 of the tax revenues gathered by the state, compared to a mere 2 or 3% of state income that would be consumed by just providing the Liao with tribute. Due to these circumstances, intense political rivalries would later arise in the Song court over how to handle these issues. Conflict and diplomacy. In the northwest, the Song came into conflict with the Tanguts of the Western Xia dynasty as early as the 980s, when Song intended to retake the former Ordos prefectures of the late Tang dynasty, then held by the Tanguts. After the Tangut leader Li Jiqian died in 1004, the Tanguts under his successor Li Deming had initially attacked the Song, but later sought peaceful relations which brought economic benefits until 1038. After non-Chinese Song patrol leader Li Jipeng raided Xia's territory and destroyed some fortified settlements in 1034, the Tanguts under Li Yuanhao retaliated. On September 12, 1034, the Tanguts raided Qingzhou in Huangqing Circuit, but later Li Yuanhao released Song officers and soldiers he had captured. By January 29, 1035, relations were restored when Li Yuanhao sent tribute of 50 horses to the Song court and requested a copy of a Buddhist canon in return, which he received, although he retained some unique Tangut customs and had a Tangut script created. Li's administration followed the traditional Chinese model of bureaus. Li proclaimed himself the first imperial ruler of Western Xia, ruling as Emperor Jingzong, and on November 10, 1038, he sent an envoy to the Song capital in order to gain recognition for his new title as Son of Blue Heaven and to cease paying tribute to Song. To affirm his new status, the Xia began attacks on Song's borders, which were repulsed by Song commander Lu Shouqin, and on January 9, 1039, the Song shut down its border markets, and soon after a reward of 100,000 strings of coin was offered to anyone who could capture Emperor Jingzong. Although he won impressive victories in the initial phase of the war, Jingzong gained no additional territory for Western Xia by war's end in 1044. While both sides had lost tens of thousands of troops, Emperor Jingzong also conceded to the Song demand that he refer to himself as an inferior subject when addressing the Song, and that he accept Song ritualists to perform official ceremonies at his court. Throughout the war, the Song had maintained a number of fortified military outposts stretching some 480 kilometers from the westernmost prefectures of Shaanxi to Hedong in what is now Shanxi. Since the Song could not rely on water obstacle defenses in this region, like the Great Ditch of Hebei used against Liao, they instead garrisoned the wide expanse with a recorded 200 imperial battalions and 900 provincial and militia battalions by 1043. Relations broke down once more in 1067 with the ascension of Emperor Shenzong of Song, and and in the 1070s the Song had considerable success in capturing Tangled territory. A mood of frontier adventurism permeated Shenzong's court, as well as a desire to reclaim territories he felt belonged to him as the rightful ruler of China. When a Song general led an unprovoked attack on a western Xia border town, Shenzong appeared at the border to commend the general himself, to punish the western Xia and damage their economy. Emperor Shenzong also shut down all commercial border markets along the Song-Western Xia border. The scientist and statesman Shen was sent to Yanzhou in 1080 to stave off Tangled military invasion. He successfully defended his fortified position, yet the new Grand Counselor Kaike held him responsible for the death of a rival Song military officer and the decimation of that officer's forces. As a result, Shen was ousted from office and the state abandoned the projected land that Shen was able to defend. When Empress Duo Jigao died in 1093, Emperor Zhezong of Song asserted himself to court by ousting the political conservatives led by Sima Guang, reinstating Wang Anshi's reforms, and halting all negotiations with the Tanguts of the Western Xia. This resulted in continued armed conflict between the Song dynasty and the Western Xia. In 1099, the northern Song launched a campaign into Xining and Haidong, occupying territory that was controlled by the Tibetan Guzluo regime since the 10th century. By 1116, Song managed to acquire all of its territory and incorporated it into prefectures. The area became the westernmost frontier against the Western Xia.